Hopefully we'll get a couple people to show up tonight. If not, that's okay. You can watch the stream after it's recorded. So for those people that are showing up tonight, thank you for showing up for my Random Code stream. We are not doing wind forms tonight. Not doing wind forms tonight. that's done and done. And like I said before, I've got other things that, the intent of this stream is just to come up with an idea and see how far I can get with it, and just keep doing them over streams over every week, which I'm going to be again doing every Thursday night at 8:15ish Central. So tonight I am going to start working on something that I had an idea for a little while ago, and I think I'm just going to try to not repeat it, but do it tonight. And when I say repeat, I mean like copy some code that I've done before, because that's the way that we're always supposed to code, right? You just, you figure out how to build it. You struggle a certain way on how to build it, and then you just keep redoing that and building off of that. So anyway, so that's what I'm going to be doing tonight. And I forgot what I titled this stream, like using Roslyn to examine Roslyn or something like that. So you'll see what I mean in just a moment. But the first thing I want to do is I think I'm going to start up a tradition here and just show where I'm going to be in the future in terms of speaking. And then we'll get into what I'm going to be doing live tonight and what I'm going to be struggling with. So let's switch over to this view. So on April 7th and 8th, I'm going to be at Codestock in Knoxville, Tennessee. And of course, all of this is contingent on the good old COVID stuff. So hopefully that doesn't get in the way. Unfortunately, it did get in the way of VS Live. I was going to be there in Vegas at the end of February, but they canceled the event, and understandably so. Events have to make sure that they're going to be, as safe as they can be. So hopefully these events go on, though. I do like speaking at conferences and interacting with people, and I just enjoy doing that. So I did do Codestock. I think it was 2017, and it was a good event. I enjoyed it, and it was also an event where I was scheduled to do two talks. And the first talk, I was in the room that I thought was right, but at the last minute they had, or like a day or two beforehand, they had moved it to a different room. And so I was in the wrong room, even though I didn't realize it. And yeah, that was not fun. But fortunately, I had enough people figure out where I was. They came into that room, and then when I was done, the organizers came up to me and said, "We're so sorry. We should have told you that we moved you to this room or a different room. Would you mind doing this talk again at the end of the day?" I was like, "Yeah, sure. No problem. I'm here all day." So, but I'm glad I'm going back. I did enjoy the event. This event, that conference in Texas, was actually supposed to happen a week or two ago, and they pushed it back to May. So I've done the event many times in Wisconsin Dells, and this is their first year that they're doing it at the Kalahari that I guess just opened up in Round Rock, which apparently is near Austin. So I will be heading down for that in May, and then back in Austin again for Visual Studio Live. This is in mid-June. So all these conferences are good ones, and I would just highly recommend you check them out. So without further delay, let's actually build something tonight completely from scratch, not copying code at all. So what I'm going to do tonight is something, that, like I said, I've thought about before. And it has to do with my general notion of what I think about exception handlers in .NET. And what I mean by this is, I used to do a talk, and I still do it occasionally, on exception handlers. And it's something that I think people do to some degree without necessarily thinking about how they actually work. More to the point, I think they're kind of abused. I've seen a lot of code bases that people will just put in an exception handler and not really think about, what it's actually doing. A lot of just try catch blocks, where the catch block doesn't even specify an exception and doesn't do anything, and the code just keeps moving on. And or they'll do something where they'll try to catch the general exception type, log it, and then rethrow it. And I've seen so many instances of this in my past where it just doesn't go well. And part of it, I think the reason why this has become so pervasive, or at least was to some degree pervasive, is because a lot of code examples that you'd see from Microsoft and other places would just, if they were showing code or showing exceptions, they would just show a try catch block doing this all the time over and over again. And so I thought, well, there's actually, if you read the .NET Framework Guidelines book, or if you look at the .NET analyzers, they'll actually catch you on this and say, hey, you should not be having a catch block with nothing in it, or you should not be catching the general exception type. That's something that should be very, very rare, if at all. Okay. But I was just kind of curious. If you looked at a code base, how many catch blocks do you have in a code base? And of those, how many are like just catching the general type, or it's an empty catch block? And the reason that I'm curious about this is just because I want to see what some code bases do. And also to try to throw some weight behind a little bit of this notion that I have, that you should have as few exception handlers as possible in code. One of the most successful projects I was ever on, I actually did search for just catch in the code base. And this was a fairly extensive project with a lot of rules and validation and workflow logic and everything else. And when the project was finally completed, more or less, I looked to see how many catch blocks we had, and I think we had about 6. And I was actually kind of shocked. And part of that had to be that was attributed to having a really good extensive test suite. We really had a good feel for that the code was actually doing what it was intended to do, and that was defensive against mistakes. So that was a good feeling. And that we didn't have all these resilient exception handlers around. When we did have one, it was because it was on purpose. It was because there was an exception that could be thrown, and we would catch that and handle it appropriately. So what I'm going to do is build this tool that is going to look through a code base and determine how many catch blocks do you have. And while I'm doing that, I'm also going to count like the number of statements and everything else. So what I mean by that is, if I go into a piece of code, and it doesn't matter what it is, let's bring up something like this. Is this a little bit? Yeah, this is fairly, this is actually called editor config generator. And let me put into the comments here just what that is. So people, if they want to, they can check it out. It's at my github.com/JSONbox site, but editor config generator. That should be where it is. Yep. And what this does is it actually reads a code base and tries to infer your style and create an editor config for some of the styles. Okay. But what I'm curious about is, if you just go to Syntax Visualizer here, and I just click on some of the code here, what you're going to see is, like, this is a method declaration. And if you get into the block of the method, you see we have an if statement. Okay. And then that if statement can have an expression, a greater than expression. Okay. And then that if statement has a block, and that block has a local declaration statement and another local declaration statement. Okay. And eventually we're going to get down to a return statement. So you see that we have expressions and statements in our code. And so I'm just going to, go with the statistic of saying, let's go look at methods or bodies, because properties are technically methods. And let's just find all the statements and expressions we have, count them up, but then also look and see when we have a try catch block in our code. Now in this code, I don't even know if I have. If I say, look for the word catch, let's match case, match all word, and say find all. Okay, I do. All right, that's fine. The reason I wanted to just find one. Oh, yeah, that's funny. Okay, that's actually in code, and that's not exactly what I want. I wanted to, and I don't necessarily want to. You know what we can do, though? What we can do is, let me do this and pull this over here. And I can just go to Sharp Lab IO, and let's just put in a try. Okay. And we'll say var ID is equal to GUID, new GUID. Doesn't matter what we're doing. And then I'll say catch. Okay. What I want to do is look at the syntax tree. Okay. So I have a compilation unit. Actually, if I click on this, it should just go right to it. Yeah. So you go to a catch clause. Well, okay. Yeah. Operation. That's, you have a try statement. That try statement will have a catch clause within it. Now the catch clause in the block, it should really have nothing in it. There should like what I'm saying is there's no syntax nodes. It's just tokens. Okay. But if I did something in here, like if I said for whatever reason, ID, let's just say var x is equal to 3, some strange reason. And yeah, it's unnecessary that, we don't need to assign that. But what we should see in here now is, let's scroll back up, the catch clause now has a block. Okay. And well, it had a block before that's, but what it has now is at least it has a statement. It has a node, a child node within it. And that's kind of what I'm looking for, is to say, do you have an empty catch block, or do you actually have a catch block that has things within it? And then also, does your catch block say, like, I'm looking for argument exception, we'll just say AE for lack of a better name. And then if I click on this, what we should see is a catch clause with a catch declaration. And that's basically saying, hey, this is what we're trying to catch here. And of course, I think there's catch this when ID is, I forget the syntax. There's like a way to say when something occurs, you can filter it. So that's also going to play into here when we're doing the search. But the point is, I want to look at their code base, and what I'm really going to try to look for is, when are you doing something like this? Okay. You have a catch block that's not doing anything, or you just have like a catch block and you say exception. You don't do anything. Those are the ones that I think people sometimes put into their code, and it's not leading to the best situations, because you might be masking things that are really happening badly in your code. One thing I just found out recently is that methods that have try catch blocks in their code can't be inlined, which was an interesting thing. So if you're basically telling the compiler, I cannot inline this no matter what, no matter how simplistic the method is. So, and here's one story. I remember one project I was on, or the client I was on, and they were telling me that there was an application that pretty much in every method, they had this standard that they had to have a try catch block around the entire method body. And the catch block would catch exception. It would log the exception and then rethrow it. And what happened was that one time when they would log it, they were actually logging it to a SQL database of all things. But one time way down in a method call stack, it failed. And so tried to log, but the database was down as well. Now, of course, all of this is really bad. But the problem is that it would have to wait until it timed out, and then it would try to rethrow it. The calling method would eventually catch that one, try to log it, time out, and wait. And it took like a half an hour before it finally unwound all the way to the top to basically say, yeah, the app is done. So yeah, logging to a SQL Server database like that is probably not the best thing in the world to do either. But just that whole call stack and the overhead that you're putting on to do something like that, it's not very helpful. So I'm actually going to, once I get this code up, I'm actually going to see if I can get through Roslyn's code base. Before I started, I actually cloned the repo, and so I have it on a drive here on my machine. And so I want to target that one and use that to say, let's just see what their code does, just because I'm curious. Okay. So with all that said, let's come back over here. And first thing I want to do is kind of mimic a little bit, to some degree, what this is doing, but also trying to think offhand. there's a class in here that find. It's a, where is it? Should be able to see the style generator. Is that it? That's generating. Oh, that's interesting. New JSON serializer. Why can't you find that? I don't know. This code base isn't what I'm trying to look for anyway. Compilation user, style aggregator, add. Let's get to is there we go. Style walker. Yeah, that's the thing I'm looking for. So this is a visitor pattern class. So basically, you can give this. You can basically inherit from this and tell it to visit all your nodes, and then it will. There's all these visit methods you can override for things that you're looking for, and that's essentially what I'm going to be doing in this code. Okay, so I have this exceptional statistic. I couldn't come up with a better name, and that's what I'm going to call it now. I don't have this out in GitHub, but at some point I'll eventually put this out on GitHub, and people can take a look at it if they like. So what's the first thing I'm going to want to do here? Well, the first thing I want to do is copy and paste some stuff. So I have this, and I want to, what would be a good one to grab? What have I worked on recently? Where is it? This one? Yeah, probably this. That's fine. I can move stuff around later. Okay, so we'll do this, and we'll come back over here, and we will do this one. I'll put it in a source directory eventually. This one goes there, and let's put them in with the solution. Where are you? There you go. Add existing items, and we'll do that. Put those in there. We have in here. Yeah, got a copyright 2022. I don't even know if that's even worth it. Version 010, sure. And then we don't even need to say like in here. You need to say that it is an output type of that. Those should actually be in the props. There they are. Okay. And we're referencing that project, which is good. Let's come back here. And we don't need to say that, or that. We really don't need anything in the project file. And the test one is a little different. If I come back over to here, and let's go into the repos, and it doesn't really matter which one I'm picking here, transpire. We'll do source, tests, and let's bring this up in Notepad++, because what I want to do here is make sure that I'm actually doing the right stuff to say I'm a test assembly. Here, I do that, get rid of all these, and if I say item group, I have the right XML. There we go, right? Okay. So, good evening, Digital Drummer. How you doing? Somebody showing up. So that's good. Okay. So we've got, I think, just the general project stuff set up. So what I want to do here, I'm going to say if I'm given a piece of code, what do I want to get back as like statistics from it? I probably want to say, tell me how many statements you found. Tell me how many expressions you found. And tell me how many like empty catch blocks catch clauses you found, or really just that. Try finally would be okay. Typically when you're doing a using, that's what it's generating anyway, but it's not uncommon to have like a try finally going on in your code. But it's just, those empty catch blocks. That's what we're trying to avoid. So naming is hard. How many times do I say this? Naming is hard. What do I want to call this class? I'm going to call it statistics gatherer. I don't know. It's a Thursday night. We can always change it. Statistics gatherer. Good as name as any, right? All right. No, actually, did I? I'm wondering here. Hold on. Did I put it in here? I gotta get rid of the old directory. This is that one setting that I think David, he's from Microsoft, told me about with the name. Yeah, this is in this editor config. It's not my other one. I gotta have a way where I can have like a editor config that is just like the one that I always use for every project, or at least have that as a base, and then I can just use that in all my other projects easily. I just keep copying and pasting crap everywhere, which is not necessarily a good thing. Let's go open it up here. And where do we want to put this in? Yeah, that's good. Okay. Hopefully now we'll get file scope namespaces. So let's say public seal class. And then on statistics, gatherer on construction, we should be taking string code. We just want to have the code. Okay. Something in that in a moment. As public, unsigned int, statements count. Yeah, I think that'd be good. That'd be a get, just a get only. We want an expressions count. And we also want to say for this code, how many empty. Well, here's a, you can have an empty catch block, but you could be saying like I'm catching an argument exception and I'm not doing anything in it. So how many exceptions that we like empty exception blocks or yeah, I think this is one I just want to say. So public int empty exception empty catch exception empty catch blocks. His name is any. And then we want also here if type specified. What I'm trying to say is if you're not giving or you are giving a specific exception that's not the general exception type. You can also say exception. I can say try here, and then I can, I don't know why the formatting is all wonky. And I can say catch. I can do that, and that's empty. What's interesting is if you look at this, it's saying, yeah, see CA1031, and that's from the .NET analyzers. It's telling you don't do this. Of course, now it's saying that's not used. But if I did that, you know, if I said here argument exception, then that goes away. But this also to me is typically something you don't necessarily want to do. So, but I'm really more concerned about these things. You know, these are the ones I'm really concerned about. Let's do this. Add catch blocks. Count. Yes, these are all counts. So yeah. Okay. So it's interesting here though. One point to make here, if you can see this, is this will catch all exception types. In the CLR, it's possible that you can actually throw something that is not an exception, that's not based on the exception type. Now you can't do this in C#, but a language like C++ can do this. And so what ends up happening is if you were trying to use an assembly that was written in C++ and for whatever reason it threw something that was like a string or an int, what that will be wrapped in is something called runtime wrapped exception. So just for the curious, if you're ever wondering about that. So yeah, those are the two that we're basically trying to find. Okay. So what we want to do here, we want to say var unit is equal to back here and say here we get compilation. Yeah, we want to basically do this syntax factory. And let's see how smart this is. We don't have a document. We're not reading from a file. We're just saying code here. I want to see how smart this is. Do you know where to get syntax factory from? No, you don't. Sometimes it'll actually pick this up and say, oh, you want to actually get it. Oh, it did. Okay. I'm sorry I yelled. This is exactly what I want you to do. Get that package. Okay. So now we have a unit here. Okay. And what we want to do is visit it and basically find all the things. So I think what I might want to do here is have like a private sealed class. Just call it statistics visitor. I can't really think of a better name right now. Yeah. And what? No, where was this? I found it. Yeah. I'm doing the same thing here. I'm doing the exact same thing here. We'll call this statistics walker just because. There you go. Okay. And then we're going to kind of follow the same thing that we are doing over here, which is we're going to say public statistics walker. Give it a compilation unit syntax. Okay. And in here, that's interesting. So if I give that and then I give the compilation, then I basically say visit. I'm not sure I want to do that. I basically want to give it in the constructor and it will just go off and visit compilation unit, right? I mean, that's kind of what we want here. So we're going to say this dot visit compilation unit, giving it the unit. Okay. And we want expression body members. All right. We're also apparently going to do is close the file. Okay. So now what we want to do here is we want to capture a couple of things. We want to capture we can do this. We can say public uint add. Copy all these, except we want private setters because we're going to be doing that. Okay. Same thing here and here. Okay. We're going to visit the compilation unit. We want to override when we say visit a statement. Oh God. There's going to be a lot of statements that we're going to, and if I say expression statement. This expression, is that an expression statement? I can't remember. An instance expression, and that derives from expression syntax. So I don't think there's any way to just say, like visit this, override, visit expression. And you can say expression statement, but that's not exactly the same thing. There's all these other expressions that we're going to have to override. So this is going to get quite boring for a little while. But we want to basically say in any of these methods, increment the expression count. And the ones for the statements, we want to increment the statements count. So this is where I need background music. So I can say override, visit, expression, colon, call when the visitor visits an expression colon syntax. Is that with a ternary? If I said Rx is equal to, if 2 is less than 3, then true, else false, which is one of the dumbest pieces of code I ever wrote. And I don't even know if it's going to allow that. If I come here, it's a semicolon token. It's not the same thing. I'm just not brilliant enough off the top of my head to figure out what exactly the colon syntax is. But I think, what's this? This expression syntax, no, throw expression, anonymous method expression statement. How bad am I going to be throwing off my statistics if I try to catch all these? This is actually a statement syntax. Yeah, so that's actually, is it an expression or is it a statement? I don't know. This is a view where we say this statement counts plus plus. There. Just keep going with the statements. Override. The break statement. Right. Statement. Let's copy this because I got the feeling I'm going to be doing that a lot. All right. Untitled Code, kick in and realize what I'm trying to do here. Continue statement. Okay. Override statement. Do statement. Do this. Override statement. Empty statement. Override statement. Fix statement. If you use the fix keyword. Override statement. Each. Override. Override statement. For statement. Oh crap! I just realized something. What I'm going to want to do is in every one of these visits, you want to call the base. Darn it. So you can't. So yeah, these all should be this, and then base visit expression statement with the node. Okay, because that could actually call other things, and so you want to just keep going and just keep going down that tree. So unfortunately, I don't know how clever this would be if I did this to replace. Can you do multi-line replace? No, you can't. Dang it. Well, trick it. I could say this. If I did format doc, no, it's not gonna. That's not gonna do what I want it to do. That's okay. I think. And then this is. Nope. That's not what I wanted. That's not what I wanted. There we go. Okay. And then this is checked. Keystroke. There we go. And then we do this. And then we say continue. A lot of these. and and I don't know if like with the time, because again, when I'm doing these streams, this is purely just live and chilling and having all that fun, and hopefully at some point I actually get people asking questions again, but that's okay. I do want to make at least some progress tonight and see, am I actually getting something, anything? So let's see here. The fixed statement, each statement, each statement, variable statement, and then that for each variable statement. And then here we shall do that. And so we're going to stop here with all these because I'm going to have to do all of them. But I want to see, am I actually getting what I think I'm getting? You know, so if I do this and I get a unit here, I'm wondering. I am wondering if I do a public void deconstruct out var, not var, uint expressions count out uint statements count out uint add catch blocks count, and then I say this, it's expressions count statements count back catch block count is equal to this dot express this dot expressions count this dot statements count and it's not bad catch box count. Okay. Then up here, what I could do, I think, kind of do this all in one shot. Maybe. Let's see if this actually works. I'll be kind of surprised if it does. This dot this dot statements count and this dot bad catch blocks count is equal to, I'll be so surprised if this works. A new statistics walker, which is taking syntax factory parse code count. And now you want me to make this an expression by member, and that works. Ha! Okay. That's actually, I don't know if that's the most readable code you could ever see in the world, but it works. It works. You can deconstruct it that way. There's something that feels kind of weird about it, but it works. And what I'm going to do right now is I'm just going to write not a test, but something that's going to exercise this to say, hey, if I've got a piece of code that's got a compilation or a for statement in it or something like that, I should see the statements count at least be greater than 0. Okay, let's make sure that I'm going down the right paths with things right now. Okay. Let's say this. We're going to add in a statistics gatherer tests. That. Public static. We'll say test. No, not fact. Test is unit. Public static void check statements count. Okay. Our code is going to be equal to, I'm going to be a little bit verbose here. I'm going to be like public class test. And then we're going to have in here a public void something. Here's the for I is equal to 0, I less than 10, I plus plus, sure. Let's have a var. I'm being way too much with this. Var result 0. That. And we also want to see in here result is equal I turn result. And something very there. As far as I want to go. Now what I want to do is I want to say our gatherer. Oh, thank you, Untitled Code. That's actually spooky. That's actually really spooky. Assert that gatherer statements count is equal to 1. No, we want to just say is greater than 0. Does it actually work? I'm surprised if it does. Whenever you run tests the first time, you should be surprised if they actually run the first time, because they never work. So okay, well, it passed. So we're actually getting statements. Let's just run into the debugger and let's see what we're actually getting here as a count. Is it 5? 2? What are we getting here? 2. Okay. Well, what statements we're doing? For fixed, empty, do, continue, checked, break. For each. I wonder where the second one's coming from. I mean, I could put a breakpoint on all of these. You know, it's because I got time. It's a Thursday night. It's a chill night for me. Let's just have some fun and see where exactly I'm actually doing this. And that. Come on, that, and that. So let's come back to our test and let's just see where exactly I'm actually getting all the values. So we have a for statement, which we expected. And then we get an expression statement syntax. What actually is this? Oh, that's the result plus equal I. That's the second one. Okay. But this is good because our breakpoints, because we're actually getting all the statements. Let's actually put in, we'll do this and then we'll finish this for the night. And then off camera, I'll get this up into GitHub. And then next week, we'll continue on with this and see if we can get any farther. Because the goal of this is to eventually make this a .NET tool that you can just download from NuGet. And, you know, I want this to be flexible to say, let's look at any code base. You can look at a directory. Maybe we'll say a solution and use the workspaces API to do that. Or say, like, I want to go to, you know, and I've done this with editor config. In fact, editor config generator. There is a integration test in here, which I'm using, I think, libgid 2#. Yeah. And what I'm doing here is this is just a test program that I basically can say down here, here's like a project name, and then here's the URL that you can use to clone it. And then I use this to clone it automatically and put it in a directory. And so I want to have, you know, that ability as well to say, well, if you've got like a URL to specify, then I'll just go off and clone this somewhere into a directory that you tell me to go, and then I'll read that one and start parsing it. So not quite sure why it doesn't know what repository is or why it doesn't know what libget2sharp is, but this isn't the project we're concerned about. These aren't the droids you're looking for. Okay. So let's get an expression in here. Override expression. Anonymous method expression. We'll go up to arrow expression. Because what's an arrow expression? That should be, if I do something like var x equal to this, and I do this, 3. And I bet this is going to infer this as a func event, right? And it does. I'm on a roll tonight. I should just stop. So if I come back here, does it know what it's a parenthesized lambda expression? I wonder where the arrow, where else can you use an arrow? I am not that smart. But what I can do is override. What was this? I can't even remember. I just looked at it. Parenthesized lambda expression. Parenthesized lambda expression. Because why not? Right? And then we do this, do that, and then we have to, no, not that one. We want to say this dot expressions count plus plus. That's the one we want. Okay. And this is kind of what we want to copy that. Okay. So let's put in a test here that will say check test public static void check expression count. Okay. And here I want to say var code is something silly like that. Let's get rid of the syntax visualizer because it kind of bogs you down when you're using it. Okay. So we're going to put this in to do something. What we're going to do is that, and then we're going to say return X, but calling it. Okay. Now in this case, we should see that the expression count is greater than 0, right? Hopefully, maybe, possibly. I'm finding out that maybe I should just code on a Saturday night, or not Saturday night, Thursday night for everything I do in my life, because I'm hitting all cylinders at this point. This is uncanny. I should not be able to do this. Okay. Again, there's a lot more work. I'm just saying these little gains are actually good. Now what I want to do is actually visit a catch block. Catch clause, I think that's what it's called. Override catch. See, there's catch declaration, there's catch filter as well. I don't really care about the catch declaration, I don't believe. I think I just care about the catch clause. This is where I wish there was like hundreds of people on the Roslyn team following this and like telling me what, but then, they know everything. So they're like super smart people. So if I actually did this here and I put this in here and I did that, and I put a catch there, it had nothing in it. Yeah. Go back to my syntax visualizer. This is a catch with it's a catch clause, and we should have a block, because you always have to have a block. It's just the block will have no nodes in it. Okay. So we want to look at the block, and if it has no nodes within it, because trivia and tokens, we don't care about. It has to have nodes. Those are expressions and statements. If it has no nodes within it, that's That's what we're trying to catch. No pun intended. Okay. So let's say if node descendant nodes, and yes, we want to descend into all children. If there are any, we don't even want a predicate here, right? Could we just say, like, if it has any? If it doesn't have any, that's what we want to do. Say this dot bad catch block plus plus. Bob's your uncle. Okay. That's it. You don't think even if we did something like this, that would be a catch clause, right? Yeah. That's all we care about. Does it actually have any nodes in it? Okay. And again, gotta close that syntax visualizer window. It's dragging us down. So if we don't have any descendant nodes, then we have a bad catch block. Okay. But there's one more thing here. There's one more thing here. We're assuming that we haven't actually looked at the type of the catch block. Okay. So if I go back to editor config here and close that, I thought I was doing something with, yeah, I'm passing in the model here. And who's calling this? A lot of places are the tests. The compilation information. Oh, yeah. And then we get a semantic model from that. But the reason I'm hesitating on this a little bit is because getting that compilation to get the semantic model for is far more complicated than that. I believe. Did you say metadata reference from that? What happens if the code that you're trying to reference is actually trying to reference far more than just that that reference? So yeah, if I try to get the model, I don't think that's going to be enough. I think actually what I really want to do here, well, even if I said get all the references for everything in .NET 5, like the base stuff, the code itself may be relying upon other NuGet packages and other things like that. So you don't, you can't just do this either. This isn't necessarily right. And this, I think, is where the workspaces comes into play, because I think it handles, if I remember right, I think you can get the model that way a little easier. But anyway, what could we do? So if let's say again here, try, okay, and then say catch argument exception AE. Back in the syntax visualizer, and I say this, okay, catch declaration, okay, and the identifier name. So I think what I want to say here is if block has no nodes and either it doesn't have this thing, a catch declaration syntax child, or the here, and I don't care if you're catching this or not, because I've already determined that your block is empty. What I mean by that, you're getting a references. I don't really care about that or not. or the name of the catch declaration syntax child is either exception or system, because you could do that too. Yeah. Now, of course, you could also alias it and be a jackass. And then unless I go to the semantic model to figure out, is this really the exception type? I have no chance. So I might have to get to that point at some point. Because you can see here system, whoops, no, I got to go system.exception. And then that's the identifier name would be system.exception. Okay. I can do symbol or type symbol, and that should tell me that this is probably the exception type. Yeah. So I might have to kind of half-ass getting the semantic model because I really want to know if that's the exception type. For tonight, we'll just put in a to-do. I may have to try and get a semantic model to determine exactly what the exception type is. Okay. So if you don't have any descendant nodes and you either don't have any node not descendant nodes, I don't want to of type catch declaration syntax single default. So we can't do this in one if. I don't, at least I'm not clever enough to figure that out from the top of my head. Okay, so we're going to do that. Now we're going to say var catch declaration. Okay, do that. I can say not there. Okay. If catch declaration is null, if it's null, we didn't have one. Or catch declaration, you can't say type. What type syntax? It doesn't make sense. The type syntax, no, but yeah, maybe that's what I want. Identifier, name, value text. Either it's null or the value text is equal to say exception here, or it's system.exception. And we're there. Here. So in this case, we're saying you had to have an empty catch block. And either you don't have a catch declaration, or if you do, it's exception. Then we have a bad catch block. Okay, that's our determination. We'll write a couple simple tests. Okay. So we're going to say check bad catch block count and block is empty and no catch declaration is made. Yep. So what I'm saying here is I'm going to do try. Return 3 because I'm clever. I'm going to say catch. I don't have a catch declaration. Okay, like that. We don't want to do that. We want to say try. Nope, we don't care. It's terrible code, but that's not what I'm. That's not really what I care about. What I care about is, do we actually catch one here? Bad catch block count. Should well, we should see one here actually, but it should be greater than zero. And it failed. Why did it fail? Okay, I do have that in there. So why did you fail? Greater than zero, but it's okay. Let's see why. Well, we get into the catch clause. That's good. Really? That's fine. One. Really? What is it? To list. It's a block. You idiot. If the node not block, send the nodes and tokens. You gotta have a block, but that's what we're looking for is an empty block. This is why you write tests. This is why you write tests, people. You do stupid things like I just did. Okay. So, and for argument exception. In this case, what we're going to do is say using system, okay, in order to say argument exception, that's declared, like there's a variable there. We just give this, we should say this is equal to 1. In this case, we should say it's equal to 0. Okay. Delete the whole. And it passes. Okay. And I think the last one for tonight is another way long one. Box is empty. Catch selection is made for exception. So here we're saying that. Okay. This should be 1. And it's not. Why is that? Let's dive into the code. Why not? Well, we got to have a breakpoint to do this. Okay, stop. Okay, so we should go in here. Should get a catch declaration. If we do, what is its identifier file or text? That's a little surprising. Type. Identifier? No. This is text. It's empty. Let's not be looking at the thing I thought I'm supposed to be looking at. Really? Really? If I just go back to Sharp Lab, if I say try, I say catch exception, is this? This is a declaration. It's a declaration. Yeah, with the types identifier. So I think you can't. If I do like type here and do identifier, that doesn't work. So I'm missing. That's the catch key. That's the catch clause. This is the declaration. The type is the What am I missing here? We're close. I'm just being a little stupid. That's the catch declaration. And then the identifier name. Type says you should type syntax. There's nothing in here that says like you're not var. I don't want to get text. I want to get your name. What is this? I'm a little confused here, which isn't surprising. Get easily confused. Let's do this again. So if I say here, catch declaration type to string, it's not going to be. And that is the right thing. It's exception, but that's not really what I want. I don't think that's the right way to do it. I think you want something like name. Given an initializer expression and for the name of an honest proper. No, that's not what I want at all. But if it's your identifier, that doesn't work at all. That doesn't give me anything. It's definitely the type. You saw that from the tree that Sharp Lab was giving. It feels weird that identifier name syntax, but it doesn't have a identifier name. Type has language transfer. Well, to string, full string. No, we just want string. I guess that's what we're going to go for right now because that doesn't feel right. You know, doesn't feel right. But if I come back here now, this will probably be correct. Probably. And it is. If I went full out and said, you know what? I'm going to do this for a system exception. Say system.exception. Yep. That should also give us one. Okay. So again, what we're trying to find are empty catch blocks that are catching either, we're not specifying a type at all, or if we do, it's the exception type. Okay. So with that, if I did this and I said block is not empty. So like here, I'd say something like console line. I'm in the catch block. Okay. It should actually be 0. And that passed. Okay. It's the same thing here. If we did this, well, yes, should throw a striker at this eventually and say, hey, what am I missing here? Block is not empty. Because arguably there are cases where I care. Should be 0. So this is okay. Yeah, it passes. Okay. So I think key combination is bound to a command. Yeah. I want you to bind to actually running on my tests is what I want you to do. What aborting errors would there be here? Two succeed or one fail. Program is an internal. Oh, for God's. Oh, okay. It's kidding. Because I'm so up and having all errors show up, and because the program class isn't doing anything, we're getting all tests to pass. Okay. So I think I'm going to stop here for tonight. This is some progress, and by the next stream, I will have this up in a repo in GitHub. And hopefully I can move on to starting to do this so that this is a console app that you can give it a repo or a directory, and it will just do all the things that you want it to do, and it will come up with all the statistics. And I don't know, maybe we throw a Spectre console at this and give it a little bit prettier output. That might be something to do as well. So, but I'm going to end for tonight. So for the people that did show up, I want to thank you for attending. If you watch the stream later, add some comments or questions or however you want to do it. Follow, like, subscribe, all the good things. And I will be on next Thursday night. See you all later.